What's up, witches?
What's up?
Today we're coming to you talking about ceremony and ritual, how we celebrate it in our own lives, and with stories and ideas and just ways to be able to ground back into the divine feminine and why it's such an important part of growing up and an important part of us as people experiencing rituals, ceremonies, coming of age, and opportunities to be able to celebrate these parts of life.
Yeah. So why do we use them? Why do I use them? We can just start with our own personal reasons. For me, um, it was a way to incorporate and allow my spiritual beliefs to become more of a living body of work. Does that make sense? As I learned cerebrally about spirituality, because I had to learn it on my own. I didn't have a teacher, and I was an avid student in that area. I saw out all the information, all the healings, all the trainings, all the information I could gather. But other than maybe doing healing work, coaching work, mentoring, I knew that there was something more that could be done to integrate it into my life, but then also bring it to my kids and my family and then my community and then beyond. And so that was what ritual and ceremony did for me. It allowed me to have an outlet, a beautiful outlet to create this living essence and vibration that I was learning and living just internally and like bring it into the world around me. That was one reason. And then the other is because it was a lost art. People used to celebrate. They used to have ceremonies around coming of age and different times in our
Mhm.
lives and different periods where um that now we don't do because we're busy or whatnot. It's just a lost art. And it was all the information we needed to create our own was there for us when we sought it out, and then we embodied it and brought it in. And it's just an old rite of passage and an old way of doing things, but it's so relevant and needed in this time. So that's why I did it and why I incorporated it into my life.
Yeah, I think that ceremony has always been a part of my life. And so I think when I started learning more about how to incorporate it into the divine feminine, it became very natural for me.
Mhm.
I did grow up within the church, and so we had lots of ceremonial things we would do, right? You ceremonially get baptized, you ceremonially celebrate Christmas, you do certain things on Passover and all of these religious kind of aspects of our lives. But one of the things that I think I craved in that was like I was a Christian, I wasn't a Catholic or a Mormon, so I didn't have like these classes that I had to go to growing up that were gonna like be this big like, oh, that I think a lot of religions and also cultures have at certain ages,
Sure.
big parties and things. And
Absolutely.
so for me, I felt like there was so much of my existence that needed to be celebrated that wasn't because it was all about religion and not necessarily about like our existence. And so when I started learning about menarche ceremonies and blessing ways, which is kind of how I became really more introduced into ceremony,
Hmm.
um, it like met me where I was at. For
Hmm.
the first time, I felt like I was coming out of survival mode and fight, flight, or freeze. And I was taking a moment to honor where I was on my path and what was going on. And it was different than anything I had experienced before. And yet it felt very familiar.
Hmm. I love that so much.
It was a
Yeah.
remembering in so many ways.
It is a remembering in so many ways, and it bridges people too. So, for instance, having a menarche ceremony or having a blessing way or being the facilitator of that, even if the group of people that you're with are like, what is this? I don't know if I'm comfortable with this. What are we doing here? It allows people to be intimate in a way that they are in a safe container. And then they understand the magic of gathering and celebrating these milestones in our life that are not normally celebrated. And then they realize, wow, this is a moment in my life I wish that I had had. So like mothers who maybe see their daughters have or their friends, daughters' friends have a
Hmm.
menstrual ceremony, they're like, oh, I really wish I had had that for me. Or they are a pregnant mom who had like the traditional baby shower, but was craving something deeper and more meaningful in the motherhood and the gestation period of then becoming a mother, and is where the blessing wave may come in, and it just transcends our societal norms that are put on us to do
Hmm.
these ceremonies, and it allows us as women especially to become more vulnerable, and in a good way. Vulnerable in a way that allows us to have more heart and bring our heart chakra more wide open. So I
Well,
just think it's beautiful.
I think we lost so much of the sacredness of life. Like, I think in our current culture, it's celebrate in a way that includes party, let's get wild. And
Yeah.
like, part of the reason why
Mhm.
we named our podcast Peace Out Witches is because there is that wild side to us. There's that, like, peace out, you know? But
Mhm.
there's also that aspect of understanding that everything is sacred.
Mhm.
That's part of why I think the word witches is important because everything is sacred. This rock on on your desk that is supporting you for energetically for negative reasons, you want it to like help you release negativity or whatever. It is
Mhm.
sacred. It's sacred because it's helping you do that thing. The computer even that you're working with and that you're working on that helps you do all of these things. And so I think we made everything so commercial and so almost more mundane.
Non-sentient, even though they are
Yeah.
sentient. Mhm.
Right. And so I think that the ritual and the ceremony brings a lot of that back for us, and it brings a lot of it back for children.
Mhm.
Um, the other time I got really introduced to ceremony in my life was when my kids started going to a Waldorf school. And my daughter, she's 15 now, so it's been 15 years because she started really early into a Waldorf preschool right away as like a young baby because I was a teacher. And so I put her in this little sweet garden school. And, they started schooling me on Waldorf. Now, 3 to 5 years before that, my husband had had an encounter with a woman, and she had introduced us to Waldorf because her daughter had went to Waldorf. And because I was a teacher at the time, during those 5 years, I had all these things, all these stories that I had to like release in order to allow this Waldorf thing to be part of my possibility. But also, as soon as I heard it, I knew that I wanted it in my daughter's life, even though I didn't even have kids yet. This is like a few years before. And then take it later, right? I have my daughter, I find this little garden preschool, and I take her into it, and they start bringing these sacrednesses and these sacred moments into our seasonal life. And, one of my favorite ones is always the lantern walk. It's like the best ever. And, the little kids
My
make a
favorite too.
lantern and they
Mhm.
walk the park at night and you see a little circle at the end of all these lanterns and you get to remind everybody of the light that they carry within them as they move into winter. And I remember watching all these little kids, walk and you're told to walk quietly, which is like the hardest thing to do with little kids, and me.
A walking
And
meditation. It is.
yeah. And you're listening to these songs because they sing all these special cute little songs. I can even hear them in my head right now because we're
Me
talking
too.
about it.
Hmm.
And the light is dwindling. And anyway, it's very sweet and loving. And it brings this right before the holidays, right before this rush that has made it. And what it really teaches you is it teaches you that you want your life to slow down. I was in a light part of my life at that point that was very fight, flight, or freeze, very much survival because I was teaching. I had a newborn baby. I also got pregnant quickly, lost the baby, got pregnant again. So there's like all these things that I'm going through in my life that are like pushing, 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 drive, 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 go, 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 do, right? I went to college. You're supposed to go to college and then use that degree.
Hmm.
And here I was at this little park with this little thing and this little night, walking around this circle, taking a moment
Hmm.
and reminding myself what sacredness felt like, what ritual felt like, what ceremony felt like. It didn't feel like being at a party, eating cake, dancing on the dance floor.
Yeah.
It felt like breath
Mhm.
of
Well, and
life.
that's what ceremony and ritual do. They bring in the higher frequencies and vibrations and allow for more of a holier experience or a universal love, however you want to call it, a more light embodied experience in our everyday life. Because I remember going to my first lantern walk, and that was very profound for me too, because I was so thrilled with the idea that my children are bringing in those energies and working with those energies in this beautiful way. And all these children have this opportunity during the lantern walk. But I had like one of those just like I called them like a bliss bomb where I was crying and laughing and it just cleared so much that I had been hanging on to that no longer served me. It like was a healing moment. And it allowed me to see that there is possibility. And that's what ceremony and ritual do. It allows you to clear away. It allows you to fill your cup and fill your vessel. And then it gives you the possibility that, wow, maybe my whole life could be designed around this. Maybe I can incorporate this into a lot of moments in my year or my week even. I have rituals I do daily. I have rituals I do weekly. We all have these ceremonial times that we could actually be spending in this beautiful holy energy
Hmm.
and with our families, with our community. And it's definitely the divine feminine energy during these quieter, more simplistic, simple ceremonies that we're calling in. And it feels
Hmm.
like it's that what you said, like that breath, like I could just like
Well,
settle into this completely and embody it.
Well, and I bring up the Waldorf because I think sometimes Menarche feels so far away. It feels so foreign. It feels so, but like something like the way that Waldorf celebrates the seasons, the other thing they do is May Day where, they are around a pole and there's ribbons and it's little kids in white, but they're really meant to give you this expansion. And I remember that whole year just showing up every point to these little ceremonial seasonal festivals. They really were just little festivals with all of us people and feeling just like you described, Jamie, this aspect of like healing, knowing, right? Just remembering. It was so much of a remembering. And I think so much of us as young adults try to remember through going to the club, going to the raves, going to the parties because the music, it
Mhm.
helps us remember.
That's
And we
true.
like being with the people and we like having this celebration of all these people around us. And when we begin to make it more sacred and make it more about the sacredness, it really fills what we're trying to fill with all of those other pieces that are helping us remember, making us feel like we're remembering,
That's
but
true.
we're not quite there yet because it's really not done in a more sacred way, right? It's done in more of a way that, um, isn't thought about in that sacred ceremonial way.
Yes, and I would love if, we could all just bring into our communities these ceremonies and start to
Hmm.
incorporate more and more people. And because what you don't know until you experience it. And it may sound weird on the outside, but once you're there and you're actually in it, you remember how good it feels to have a meal with people, maybe sitting on the lawn of the school. And then know that when we're all done having this meal together and the kids are playing, that we're all going to walk in reverence and have an experience that does transcend time and space. You kind of just lose yourself to the moment. And ceremony is definitely a ritual, especially one of the biggest benefits of it is that you do become very present. You're not running down your to-do list. You're not thinking about what's next. You're very much in the moment. You're very much honoring your spirit and your spirit's wanting you to embrace life purely from the present moment.
Hmm.
And the more that you can incorporate these ceremonies and rituals into your life, the more that you're honoring that present moment. And the more you honor that present moment, the more gratitude and all the positive frequencies are going to start flowing through you. It just is. You're going to be able to manage your life a lot better too. It gives you an opportunity to have that beautiful just rest and community and honoring that those parts of us that we just don't do anymore. And I think
Hmm.
that, we do seek it out in other ways, but this is just a beautiful way to actually come together to do have a group together to embrace those beautiful holy energies and also just have a moment with people in a way that's very it just feels so, I don't know how to explain it. It's like a cosmic knowing that we're all meant to be there at the same time and have those experiences
Hmm.
together.
Yeah.
Um,
It's
and
a
then that kind of just,
remembering. It
yeah,
is
and
like
that's
our heart to
why,
the drum, you know. It
yeah,
allows us to sync up to each other and remember
yes,
why we're here in the first place.
that's right. And so then then we start thinking of beyond, the school festivals also brought me into a lot more ceremony too, that
Hmm.
my Waldorf experience too for my kids. And then the Menarche ceremony. If you don't know what that is, do you want to explain what that is real quick for those who may not know?
Yeah, a menarche ceremony is the ceremony that we celebrate young girls with, and it's when they have their first bleed. We usually try to do it within the first month of their first bleed or within their age of being 13 with that coming of age, if we didn't get to quite do it with their first bleed. And there's some signs that lead us to knowing that we should start preparing a menarche ceremony for a girl.
Mhm.
And it really just includes the opportunity for her to step into her womanhood and celebrate being a part of the red tent, which she's not able to be a part of until then, and really gives her the opportunity to understand that she is sacred and that her blood is sacred and that this opportunity to be able to give life from that moment forward is sacred.
So I have a story time. My daughter started her period at 11, and the day she started her period, she sobbed her eyes out. She said, "Mom, why so young? Why did I have to do this now? I want to be young and free. I don't want to have to think about this every month." Like it was just an absolute challenge, and she just was so upset. It completely upsetted her because she had thought in her mind, well, I'm planning my period, so I'm not going to get it till I'm about 12, 13. But she got it at 11. She just turned 11. So she was on that 10, 11 cusp. And of course, I supported her, allowed her to have those feelings. I didn't try to stop them because she did have to make peace with it on her own. There's nothing I could tell my daughter about it that would change her mind about it in that moment because she was just grieving the loss of her freedom. It was another thing that she had to grow up and deal with, basically, and she knew it. She had enough emotional intelligence to know that it's with having your change is a big responsibility. There's the responsible, not the sexual part, not being pregnant, not that part, but the part of having to take care of herself a little in different ways than she did before. And so we planned her menarche ceremony, and it didn't come together until the end of her 11th year. I think she just turned 12. But when we actually had the menarche ceremony for my daughter, she felt cherished. She felt loved. And when she thinks back, we've had many conversations about her period and when she started and all that she went through because it's a pivotal point in her life. It is for a lot of women. It was for me. She only really remembers having the beautiful celebration of her friends being there and the fun she had. And she said it was different and weird, but she loved it, every bit of it. And she wouldn't change it for the world. So it allowed her to kind of heal the trauma of starting her period so young by having the
Hmm.
menarche ceremony. It was like not a wound she carried anymore. That wound, she had the wound. She had the trauma and the realization, wow, I'm gonna, have to do extra. I can't just be young and free. I actually have to think about now I have to have pads with me and, can I swim and all the things. And then she had the ceremony, and when she's now 15 and she looks back, she's like, it was great. I'm so glad we did that. It was a beautiful ceremony and I enjoyed it and I had fun, So then the wound was healed for her.
Well,
And I'm so glad we did that.
I think it's important. That's an important like point of ceremony and ritual is that when we move from maiden to having our first period to menarche, right? And we move from menarche to even like having sex for our first time or becoming mother.
All
And
right.
we just go through these moments without ever acknowledging them, caring about them, or acting like they matter. Then we get to certain points in our life, like menopause and or periods, and we have really painful periods, uncomfortable periods. We have everything that could possibly go wrong with our periods, even everything that could possibly go wrong with our pregnancies and with our labors and deliveries because we haven't processed through the shadowy pieces. Ceremony and ritual allows us, like Jamie said, to process through the shadow, call in the light, and walk through with healing and clearing at the end so that we don't have to carry the wound that that thing caused. And we can't stop the wound from happening, but we should sure as hell put some nice patched stuff on it and the most pretty badge we can, most pretty band-aid, maybe some cotton candy, and make it really powerful and important for us so that we can continue to move forward in our life. If we don't do it in a ritual, ceremonial, coming of age, all these kind of ways, what happens is we moved from one thing to the next thing and we just like jump and we jump and we jump and we jump. And we never give our body time to catch up and we never give our spirit time to catch up. And what happens is we never really are in that moment. We're before, we're after, we're rushing towards, or we're, sad about something that we can't change. And so giving these kinds of moments as often as possible. Jamie, I think you talked a little bit about daily ceremony, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But
Mhm.
part of the reason why we, like in our things like lunar alchemy or path to priestess, celebrate on a monthly basis the energies of the month based on the astronomy and the moon and the moon cycles, is because we want to celebrate the season. We want to celebrate where we are in life. We want to be able to, on a daily basis, on a seasonal basis, on a weekly, monthly basis, take a deep breath and understand that we are living in a time where there is energy. It's accessible to us. The moon is full or it's not full. The emotions that come with that are the same as when we are starting our period or not starting our period. It's a process of a 31 day, 28 day, whatever process. Okay. It's important for us to acknowledge that.
Mhm.
It's important for us to acknowledge I went from being a maiden who had an entire life I could do whatever the I wanted to, oh
Mhm.
my God, I have this little teeny baby that I didn't have yesterday, and I now have to create everything for it. My
Mhm.
entire life changes.
Mhm.
If you celebrate that in, like, say something like a blessing way before you have a baby, and you give it honor and a moment to like be celebrated and mourned, that day that that baby comes, it's not so shocking.
That's right. Mhm.
It's not so shocking to the system. Oh my God, I'm married now. It's not so shocking to the system when we maybe privately with the one we're going to marry have a quiet little, time by ourselves, maybe after our wedding, where we get to
Mhm.
sit in our room or wherever we're at and like put our hands on each other's hearts and really feel the aspect of what we just did and who we are and how we get to celebrate this together um,
I
with
like that you brought
sacredness.
I like that you brought the hands to heart because that's a process that we do. We encourage our sisters to do, and anyone that comes to our academy to learn to do with their kids or with their spouses. But that is a ceremony in itself, even if you spend 5 minutes doing it. But basically, what it
Mhm.
is you put your hand on your heart, you put your hand on their heart, they put their hand on you, and they put it on, and you're like this. And you just look into each other's eyes and you sit with each other
For at
and
least
you
a whole song.
yeah, a whole song is usually a really good amount of time. Maybe you giggle a little because it's uncomfortable or you feel vulnerable and your eyes want to stray away, but just bring them back. And then you kind of get past that. And then you start to realize that all the mind chatter and all the stories and all the to-do lists and all the things that we have in our head all the time just quiet down.
Hmm.
And you become fully present with that human in front of you. And then you start to feel that overwhelming unconditional love you have for that person in front of you. And it transcends the relationship. It's more of that I came here contracted with you, and this is our moment, and I honor this moment, whatever it is. Doesn't matter
Hmm.
what it is. And that's a beautiful way to bring ceremony into your weekly, monthly family
Hmm.
relationship.
Well, and what are some daily things that you do to bring sacredness and ceremony into your life?
Um, I have a set of rituals that I do every day, and some of those include saying thank you, of course, like just really spending time and cultivating the feelings of gratitude. I've been practicing that mostly all day long and all night. Constantly in the state of thank you, thank you, thank you, not for anything in particular. I used to make lists of what I was grateful for. Now I just say thank you. It's just I say thank you. So cultivating gratitude, that's part of a ritual that you can create. I do protections. I put protections around me and my family. I do clearings around me and my family. I also just call in the energies that I want for my day. And usually it's peace, ease, and just energy to do the things I need to do to be in service for all the people I'm in service to. And then I also call in for me Jesus and God, and I ask that the doors be open today that I need to walk through and guide my day. So that's my daily ritual. And I have a ritual at night that I do as well. So it just varies, but mostly that's my top.
Hmm.
And then that's daily. Weekly, well, I haven't had much consistency with weekly, but weekly maybe would be just setting intentions and then doing some magic around those intentions in physical form. And I know you do that a lot too, right? You have weekly
Hmm.
ceremonial rituals that you do around your
We
intention.
have we have some practical things we do, like on a daily basis or as close to daily. We eat as a f family together at the dinner table every night, and so that's something that we do that we keep sacred. That is part of our ceremony, and we really slow down. We ask each other how we're doing. We communicate. No cell phones allowed or anything like that. Um, on a weekly basis, I will always cleanse the house. And then my kids, we have like a birthday every month for about 6 months, leading up to like Thanksgiving and Christmas. So we have
My
some,
goodness.
birthday rituals that we do. Like we have a certain birthday manual banner that we put up, and I've started changing it when they get a little bit older. But um, when they're young, they get like a little birthday crown, and we have this cool little thing that we put on the table, and we sing a birthday. Well, we like a birthday poem that says a certain sentence about each of their years. They
That's
really love
awesome.
that. I didn't think they would like it, and they still love it. Even though my daughter's 15, we have to go around the table 15 times to say her things. This is a thing they do in kindergarten, and we still do it, and they just like to hear it. Um, it's these simple things that we call into our families and make our own
Mhm.
that our kids want to celebrate in a seasonal, weekly, monthly basis that they're going to remember, and it helps them connect in and remember who they are and where they came from. We also pray every morning and every night, and we're learning to pray over our food, so we're getting better at that.
Yeah, those are beautiful. I love it. Definitely blessing your food. Every bite that goes in and every bite that I put on or everything I put on my skin, I bless. So
Hmm.
but I have a blessing. It's short, sweet. I've been using it forever. So in my when I do it, it doesn't take long. It's just super sweet and short. And I feel like I totally connect, with source when I do it. So that's a beautiful way to bring ritual or even ceremony into your daily, especially if you don't have a family. That's one way to do it. Just bless everything.
Yeah.
Bless everything.
Well, and
It's a
I
great
do I
practice.
do like holy water over my doors on Passover. We just recently moved. I made my husband carry me over the threshold. But
Nice.
before he carried me over the threshold, I made him put salt under the mat, pray over the door, put holy water on it, with some sigils and some symbols, and then carry me over it.
That's cool.
So I mean, I have some things like that that I do too, and I think it's important because it helps us live, in ancient times and in most religions, ceremony and ritual is an important part of it. And I think that when we made everything witchy bad, We also made everything ceremonial and ritual bad, and we made it party instead. And that's what I think is hard for me when it comes to this aspect of like connecting religious aspects of ceremony and ritual with like ceremony and ritual of the seasons or pagans or even witchy stuff. Um, because there is a lot of ceremony and ritual there. Like in a Catholic church, for example, we're clearing the church when, we're walking through with frankincense, doing the oh my God, it's not a mala. It is a rosary.
Rosary.
That is ceremony and ritual in itself, right? That's an affirmation. That's a mantra. When we are confessing our sins, we are letting all the shadow out, and then we're calling in the light with doing the Mother Mary. When we are doing, Buddhist practices, and we're saying thank you for everything, and we are really showing divineness for our gods and goddesses and things like that. These are all important parts of life that I think a lot of us in this current culture just missed.
I know, I
We just
agree.
missed it.
We did.
And I think we all crave wanting to go out in the desert and be like left out there for 3 days and having to
No
like find
kidding.
our way home. We don't want to do it because we're scared, because we're used to comfort. But I think we all secretly kind of want to do that. And I think that's part of what we crave and we look for in this young adulthood. That if we met young adulthood with a proper coming of age or a proper, ceremony with coming of age, maybe we wouldn't want that longing so much for that aspect because it met with us because we learned how to meet with spirit in the world through ceremony and ritual, through detox, through not eating and drinking, through being present in the desert for 40 days with God. Like there is that aspect that is important when it comes to the human experience and not just mundanely dum, 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 going through it.
I agree. And so that just makes me think like I used to fast a lot, and that was my also my way of detoxing, but also getting closer to source and God was by just quieting my ego's need for survival. But really, what we are trying to explain here is where in your life can you add more ritual and call in more holiness? And where in your life can you bring ceremony? And maybe you feel like you're maybe a grown woman who's even had babies and but you want to have a menarche ceremony for yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, we
Mhm.
throw menarche ceremonies for our women in our academy because it's important. It's a rite of passage, and if you've never had it, you deserve it. You ain't had
Yes.
your period. You started your period. And so we encourage you to find the ceremony in
Yeah.
your life, religious
Well,
or not. It's up to
and
you.
And we celebrate women. I mean, we do all the ceremonies. There's menarche and there's wise woman, and if you're a crone, there's a crone ceremony and there's mother ceremony. I mean, there's many ways to bring in ceremony into your life.
Mhm.
And one of our favorite ways to do that is through our lunar alchemy class. And we do ceremony on a monthly basis and a seasonal basis. So we both homeschool our children. We both homeschool them through a Waldorf like education. And so we bring that a lot to our lunar alchemy. We also are bringing our full moon and new moon ceremonies there. And we bring our business hot seat coaching to women who are on the path of learning somatic breath work, somatic movement, and all these things. And they want to be able to just, elevate themselves and rise. So this is a 4 month class. It includes for you guys sacred circle training, which we're really excited about. And then it includes the live full moon or new moon for that month and the live festival for that season or red tent. So we hope you will check it out. It is always available, and it is there, and we love to be able to celebrate and honor you in that way in sacred ceremony through sisterhood circles. So if you'd like to join us, check that out below. And
Mhm.
let us know how you are celebrating and carrying ceremony in your life on a daily or weekly basis. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for coming here and being with us today. Peace out, witches.
Peace out, witches.